My dear friends of peace and freedom, I come to New York today with a strong feeling that my dearly beloved husband, who was snatched suddenly from our midst, slightly more than 3 weeks ago now, would have wanted me to be present today. You who will not be deluded by the talk of peace, but who press on in the knowledge that the work of peacemaking must continue until the last gun is silent. I come to you in my grief only because you keep alive the work and dreams for which my husband gave his life. We must now turn our attention and the sole force of the movement to the problems of the poor here at home. My husband always saw the problem of racism and poverty here at home and militarism abroad as two sides of the same coin. In fact, it's very clear that our policy at home is to try to solve social problems through military means.
Now, we who commit civil disobedience, we're disturbed too. And we need to disturb those who are in charge of the war. Because the president, by his lies, is trying to create an air of calm and tranquility in people's minds. Right. When there is no calm and tranquility in Southeast Asia, and we mustn't let people forget that. The people who commit civil disobedience are engaging in the most petty of disorders in order to protest against mass murder. These people are violating the most petty of laws, trespass laws and traffic laws, in order to protest against the government's violation of the most holy of laws, thou shalt not kill. We need to do something to disturb that calm, smiling, murderous president in the White House.
The incredible war in Vietnam has provided the razor, the terrible, sharp cutting edge that has finally severed the last vestige of the illusion that morality and decency are the guiding principles of our foreign policy.
You're right. Very good.
But perhaps what the president means when he speaks of freedom is the freedom of the American people. But what has this war done for freedom in America? It has led to even more vigorous governmental efforts to control information, to manipulate the press, and to pressure and persuade the public through distorted or downright dishonest documents. The president mocks freedom if he says that this is a war to defend the freedom of the Vietnamese. Perhaps the only freedom this war represents is the freedom of the war hawks in the Pentagon and in the State Department to experiment with counterinsurgency and guerrilla warfare in Vietnam. Thank you. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Thank you for inviting me to participate in this meeting. It's been hard for me and the farm workers. We have been so absorbed in our own struggles that we have not participated in an active way in the battle against the war. So we must work every day, week after week, month after month, year after year, if necessary, outlasting the opposition, using time to defeat them. That is what it takes to bring change in America today. Nothing less than disciplined, organized, non-violent action every day will challenge the power of the corporations and the generals. But people have to decide to do it. Individuals have to decide to give their lives over to the struggle for specific and meaningful social change. And as they do that, others will follow. Their children will follow. The young will follow. And if we offer the young an alternative out of the energies and resources of our own lives, perhaps fewer and fewer of them will seek their manhood in affluence and war. It's up to each one of us. And it won't work unless we use our own lives to show the way. Muchas gracias. Buenas noches.
Sí se puede, sí se puede, sí se puede, sí se puede, sí se puede. Otro mundo es posible. Chávez vive.
Yeah, I just like to say that I like being called sister much more than professor. Now, there has been a lot of debate in the left sector of the anti-war movement as to what the orientation of that movement ought to be. And I think that there are two main issues at hand. One group of people feels that that movement, the anti-war movement, ought to be a single issue movement, the cessation of the war in Vietnam. They don't want to relate it to any other forms or kinds of oppression taking place in this country. There is another group of people who say that we have to make those connections. We have to talk about what's happening in Vietnam as being a symptom of something that is happening all over the world, as something that is happening here in this country. You know, Nixon made a speech on November 3rd, I think it was. And he said something that we all ought to pay attention to. We all ought to take heed of. He said, understand, the Vietnamese cannot defeat or humiliate the US government. Only Americans can do that. And I feel that it is our responsibility to humiliate and to defeat the United States government and all of the fascist tactics it is using to oppress liberation fighters in this country. Thank you very much.
Those who profess to favor freedom, yet deprecate agitation, are men who want crops without plowing up the ground. They want rain without thunder and lightning. They want the ocean without the awful roar of its waters. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never has, and it never will. See, we have not only the right to speak out, we have an obligation. We must be involved. We must fight racism in all of its manifestations. We must also look truthfully at this land of the free and home of the brave. Let a new earth rise. Let another world be born. Let a second generation full of courage issue forth. Let a people loving freedom come to growth. Let a beauty full of healing and strength of final clenching be the pulsing in our spirits, in our blood. Let the martial songs be written and let the dirges disappear. Let a race of men now rise and take control. Thank you. Peace. Thank you.